What was your first dream? How old were you? Did it fill you with passion? Or did you choose it just because you were good at it? All the careers I wanted to do myself have answered to all these questions with different variations. If it's simply a matter of when, then mine was at 5 or 6. I wanted to be a football player. If it's a matter of passion, then I was around 12 or 13. I wanted to be an engineer because I wanted to bring my design of the first commercial hovercar to life. If it's a matter of capability, I had thought of becoming a lawyer simply because my dad commented on how much I liked to argue with him. What's your relationship with the dream you have in mind right now? Is it passive or is it active? Are you chasing towards the goal or are you biding your time in order to enact it? Whatever you may have responded with, what are the chances of you accomplishing your dream realistically? 70%? 35%? 5%? But most important of all, do you have a solid backup plan in case you fail? I have 2 dreams and 0 backup plans. I read The Boxer years ago at this point and would soon after decide to make a 10-chapter review. The review was decent, but it was during a time when I wasn't confident in what I wanted to be. As I was rereading the original script and chapters for the story, something clicked in a way that the me of the past couldn't comprehend. The Boxer revolves around 3 characters: the arrogant prodigy Ryu, the pessimistic underdog Injay, and the apathetic Yu. Ryu is the typical bully that revels in being at the top. Although, he isn't introduced as a bully, but as a boxing prodigy. A rare diamond who can wipe the floor with almost everyone in the local gym. He even stood toe-to-toe with Steel, a super middleweight. Kinda. Impressive nevertheless. When Discount Bakugo isn't practicing his techniques, he flexes his strength around his peers and enjoys picking on Injay. Now, Ryu by himself isn't interesting, even when you read his technical origin story. What's interesting about him is how he responds to the existence of a bigger fish approaching his small pond. Injay is the classic bully victim, classifying himself as weak and Ryu as strong. Despite feeling this, he understands that he can't keep living his days under someone's thumb. One of my favorite interactions with him is when he asks his dad for advice about dealing with an opponent stronger than him. He's given 2 different responses.
Well, I was a pro boxer. I had to do my best no matter how strong my opponent was. You do what you have to do to win. That's what makes you a pro. But rarely, very rarely, I'd come up against a terribly strong opponent and I'd freeze up. Even if I was a pro, I'd forget everything I'd learned and get beaten up like a punching bag. I'd instinctively throw my punches out of fear to try to hold out, only to have them hit the air. But without fail, I'd get KO'd. It actually felt better laying on the mat like that. I'd think to myself, finally it's over. Now I can relax. But the moment you stay down, your career as a boxer is over. Even if you've been beaten to pulp, you know the audience is going to rag on you. Even if you know there's nothing more you can do. If you get on your knees, you can still get up. That's what makes a true boxer. But I'm only talking about boxers. If you haven't done anything wrong, run. Run as fast as you can so you won't be caught. That's true courage. The courage from someone who's a boxer and someone who isn't are both commendable.
NJ decides to stand up for himself. He attempts to defend Yu with the boxing techniques he'd been honing. Unfortunately, he gets his shit rocked. Ryu, as he'd done with all the fighters he'd overpowered in the past, gloats and revels in his superiority, asking NJ if he truly thought he'd win just because he learned to box. Don't you get it, you idiot? I'm not the old J anymore. I've already won. Being a better fighter than so-and-so? Being the toughest in the neighborhood? Fuck that sissy shit. I'm gonna become a boxer! Remember when I said that the me of before isn't the same as the current me? The advice that came from the dad was what shifted my perspective. I always thought the line about running away if you're normal was weird. Especially since NJ ultimately doesn't follow what I would think was the correct advice? I mean, isn't he a normal person? Despite the very clear Deku-Bakugo dynamic that NJ and Ryu share, neither of them are the true stars of the story. That honor would go to Yu. Sitting under a street lamp in the night, Yu is first shown as a beat-up child in rags, wearing a look of hopelessness on his face. He would have a chance encounter with a blonde man that shined as bright as the sun. He stops and asks,
"Has the world knocked you down? Well, I've got good news for you. Listen up. All these stars are shining just for you. Someday, let's meet again at the top. Boy!"
This may be a stretch, but in an odd way, I want to say that he has bits of Ryu and NJ in his character. NJ's is despair and Ryu's arrogance morph into a perpetual state of not giving a shit, while also knowing he has the ability to become something greater. The only reason he doesn't do anything to particularly stand out is because nothing really keeps his interest. To him, it's a bother. However, there is one question that he ponders about that is raw yet a bit concerning. Is hitting people fun? Because, he isn't asking a rhetorical question here. He genuinely wants to know if the activity is capable of bringing him joy. Coach K's response was,
"Of course it's fun. You hit people because it feels good. Humans are weak creatures that hunger for the meaning in their lives. There's nothing as simple and clear as a fist. Just like in nature, brute force is the easiest way to prove your dominance. It's exhilarating. People go wild for the thrill of this show of strength. You're human too, aren't you? Then find out what you're worth. See how far you can go. Reach as high as you can. Spread your wings and fly straight into the sun until it burns you up. Grind your enemies beneath your heel. That's what it really means to be alive."
But he only acts upon hitting someone when he hears NJ cry out his dream. A dream that just so happens to involve hitting people. After the fight, he decides to get into pro boxing in exchange for NJ's hospital bills. Seeing as this is the first hobby or big life change he decides to take, and he is shown to be a blank slate as a person, as time passes, maybe we'll understand the events that led to the person he ended up as in Chapter 1. We can only wonder what sort of person he turns out to be on his journey to becoming a boxer. After all, the stars are shining for him, right? When I was a kid, I treated dreams the same way most people do. Something that seems out of reach but would be really cool if it came true. And looking back on it, I think it's really weird that we treat them as such. Because sometimes, it prompts the people closest to us to say things like, "It's time to be realistic," and "What if it doesn't work out?" If the dream jobs are the things we want to do, then what are the backups? jobs we're okay with doing, a likely played out task that gives a fair amount of money. For some, it may be the very opposite. They have the capabilities or connections to have a high paying job, but they simply do not care for it. I'd understand the overall lack of courage towards dreams if it weren't for the fact that we live in an age where finding the knowledge you need is easier than ever before. I'd argue that if you can't fulfill your dreams in an age like this, then it's no longer a question of the world, but the person. Then again, I'm nowhere near accomplishing mine, so I can't say anything with definitive proof, but there is one thing I'm sure of. To realize your dreams, you need to crave it. There can't be a world where you'd want anything else. If you can live without following your dream, then it wasn't a dream. You might be wondering, okay, but what if you knew you would not find success in your given field? After thinking on it for a few years, honestly, I don't think I would mind. I said this in my first video, but if certain circumstances interfere with whatever I do on this channel, I wouldn't shame myself for it. So long as I have the power and motivation to do so, I will upload a video, even if it takes months. I think that NJ is a critical hint to figuring out my future. That the key to accomplishing your dreams is by acknowledging that it doesn't start when you reach a certain threshold. It's a part of your lifestyle and it shows through your actions. Hey guys, hope y'all enjoyed the video. I hope it either helped you reflect on who you wanted to be or motivated you to check the story out for yourself. This video took months to make. Not because of the script or drawings, but because I was in a bit of a paralysis on how I should present the topic in a visually interesting way. After all, this is the first video essay I've edited proper, and I wanted it to be decent. But for now, I'm content with this simple style, because I know I'm constantly getting better at editing, script writing, speaking, etc. Especially considering that by the time I was finished with the video, I could find numerous things I would overall do better. I also think that can be seen in the shorts content I've been making leading up to this upload. I do wish to revisit the topic about dreams sometime in the future though, because despite the conclusions I came to in the reflection portion, I can't help but feel that some parts don't sit right with me, and I think only time will tell why. I'd also like to thank Toko, Ferris, Dako, and Nen for general feedbacks, as well as Shama, Dream, and Nen for voicing NJ's father, Jay, and Coach K respectively. Their links are down in the description. Next time on Webcomic 10's Existence. Humans are the fucking worst. Penning Tao.